Data protection and privacy teams are under more pressure than ever with new laws, AI oversight, data breaches, and the constant expectation to do more with fewer resources.
That's why TrustArc built a modern privacy and data protection management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. It unifies your tools, automates the work that slows you down, and surfaces what matters most right when you need it.
From guided quick actions to our intelligent assistant, Ask Arc, you get credible, contextual answers backed by expert research, not generic AI guesses.
Finally, privacy that works the way privacy pros work.
Learn how TrustArc helps teams move faster with confidence at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.
You're listening to Serious Privacy, powered by TrustArc. Here are your hosts, Dr. Kay Royal and Paul Breitbart.
There are just some weeks in privacy where it's a mishmash of whatever is happening. This week is no exception. We're going to kick it off with the U.S. with the shot heard round the world. And from there, we'll just kind of cover the privacy news of the week. With that, Paul?
My name is Paul Breitbart.
And I'm Kay Royal, and welcome to Serious Privacy.
Can't we ask ChatGPT to come up with an unexpected question in this?
What is your go-to, it says office, but what is your go-to lunch?
Sandwiches. And then it depends on the day, what mood I'm in, what sandwich is available, and where we go, because there are quite a few sandwich shops downtown Amsterdam near the office.
Nice.
So if I'm in the office, we usually grab something. If I'm working from home, I prepare something myself, and then it's just what's in the fridge.
I was going to say probably something healthy, right?
Yeah,
I should see his face.
I mean, it's a sandwich. I mean, could be sweet,
I'm
could
a
be
sandwich girl
savory.
myself.
So I don't fuss too much with all kinds of salads on my sandwich when I make them myself.
Oh, I don't either. No. We should do the unexpected question. What is your favorite sandwich? So we'll save that for the next time. My go-to lunch is, and I just finished it right before the podcast, is a pasta Alfredo with spinach, a spinach pasta Alfredo. There's a frozen gluten-free pasta dish. It's not healthy. I mean, they throw spinach in it. That doesn't make it healthy. It's not healthy by anyone's definitions. But it microwaves for 4 minutes and it fills me up. So there we go.
Well,
that's my go-to lunch.
And it's fast.
It's fast. And I would say if I'm out somewhere, if I'm at work, I don't think we have a go-to. There are some restaurants around the work office or whatever. But I will say that if I travel to Atlanta, I typically wind up going by Jersey Mike's and getting a sub at some point because it's just fast and easy, right?
Yeah, I mean, we usually do not have time to go to a restaurant for lunch. I mean,
no,
that's maybe what you can do when you have guests or meeting with friends or something like that. But in principle, we have half an hour lunch breaks, so then you don't do a restaurant.
And Europe probably doesn't have any special rapid lunch menu items like the U.S. does. Because I had a friend that came over from Europe one time. He was a coworker. And I asked him what did he dislike most about coming to visit the U.S. And we were out at lunch. And he's like, the fact that Americans rush through lunch. Tim and I looked at each other and both put our hamburgers down and tried to make it last a little longer.
Slower.
Take a little bit more time for lunch. But I mean, I do that. I was a nurse. I mean, you eat on the run. So
I'm a lawyer. You eat on the run.
You eat sitting at your desk when you're a lawyer, let's be honest, where you can. So,
well, at least in the office, we try to go to the canteen and eat there.
Get away from your desk.
Be away from the desk for a bit. But it's about half an hour.
Yeah.
So what's new on your end of the world?
Well, I mean, the big thing in the news is, what everyone's been talking about is the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump as he was at a rally in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Regardless of what side of the aisle that you may land on, violence is never acceptable. It's not acceptable in the political arena. It's not acceptable in general. But when you're talking about trying to manipulate democracy, which is the only thing you can be doing if you're attacking a presidential candidate, right? if you're attacking democracy when you do that. You're trying to manipulate it, just totally not called for. But in light of that, there were a lot of social media posts and events that happened. And one of the ones that caught my attention was a teacher that was fired from her job because she made a post on social media about why couldn't the shooter have, moved over a fraction of an inch, which would have resulted in at least an inch moved over to the side for where it landed. And, a lot of us may have joked behind closed doors about significant events across our lives. But for some reason, teachers are held to a higher standard. And we can go back to the same social media stories that are, shared about teachers being terminated. One teacher had a picture on Facebook where she was holding a red Solo cup. Now, she wasn't doing anything wrong in the picture. It's not like she was nude or sniffing up drugs or anything. She was merely holding a red Solo cup. But the red
Those
Solo
are the
cup,
ones that you
plastic
get
ones,
to drink alcohol, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They're associated with alcohol because they're cheap cups for parties. And so she was terminated for that, for morals. And this is a debate, a lot of which comes in the privacy world, of why are teachers held to a higher standard than other professions when it comes to social media posts. I mean, you're not even going to terminate a lawyer for having a picture with a red Solo cup. I mean, talk about, people and being held to morals. Lawyers are held to high moral standards. But we're not going to be fired for holding a red Solo cup on social media.
No.
It was interesting, though, because in the United States, there are moral clauses. Now, most contracts don't have moral clauses in it unless you're like really high up in the company or you're like a public figure. Actors, singers, sports players may have moral clauses in their contracts. Teachers usually don't. But why are they held to this standard? Well, the courts in the U.S. have fallen on one of two perspectives. One is that teachers are held to a higher moral standard because they are the models for moral standards for their students. Their students look up to them. Therefore, they have to be held to a higher standard because they're teaching our young. Other courts have fallen on the side of, but they're an employee just like any other employee at any other company. And what they do on their private time should have zero impact on what they do at work, unless it impacts their work. I mean, if they're doing heavy drugs on their private time, that could impact their work, right?
Of course.
But what they do in their private time is their time.
It is. And at the same time, if you basically wish somebody dead.
Yeah, that's pretty far.
Just in the aftermath of an assassination attempt.
Yeah.
I think there are also limits to the freedom of speech in that regard, where maybe at least you should have the discussion whether you terminate somebody for cause straight away. That also may be going a bit far, but in the politicized climate of the U.S., that also is not the biggest surprise.
She could have said that about a quarterback and nobody would have blinked an eye. She could have said that if someone had tried to assassinate Taylor Swift and someone said that. Again, there are assassination attempts or murder attempts or different things for all kinds of different stars. And people are like, well, that's one less to worry about or something. And nobody does anything. But we are in a very highly politicized climate here.
Yeah. At the same time, it's also apparently her company, or in this case, her school, monitoring her social media.
Yeah.
And that is something I'm wondering whether that is part of their privacy notices, that we do that and that we may use that data. And I think that is something that could be questionable also here if that is not disclosed up front.
So she may have a lawsuit there.
Well, I mean, it's at least worth a try, but that also depends on the legislation. And I'm not her counsel.
Yeah.
So not sure about that. Of course, 2 days after the...
Well, I'm sure if there's a way to file a lawsuit on it, somebody will.
Oh, especially in the U.S.
Yeah, right.
Of course, 2 days after the assassination attempt, Trump also announced his running mate, J.D. Vance. I must confess, I'm not very familiar with who he is, but I've been reading up a little bit. And if you, for example, look at the profile that Axios has done him in, related to tech policy, if Trump and Vance get elected, that is also going to be an issue. He is apparently friendly with the right wing of Silicon Valley. His Senate run was bankrolled by Peter Thiel, former founder of PayPal.
Yeah.
He apparently is close to some of the other big tech owners and companies, although he's not friends with Meta and Google.
That we know of.
According to that we know of now, but he's also criticizing them. He is a co-sponsor of the Kids Online Safety Act, and he is working together well with Maria Cantwell and Chuck Schumer, also on tech policy. At the same time, when we look, for example, about the TikTok discussion, the divest or ban bill, he is strongly opposed to that one because he doesn't want government to have too much power to go after individual companies, while at the same time he's also railing against the FTC chair for being too business critical. So also there he is on the business friendly side, which in itself probably is not a surprise for a Republican, but for global tech policy that may have significant consequences as well.
Yeah. So going to be interesting. It's going to be, I would have thought it would have gotten a whole lot interesting earlier this year, but we'll see.
Maybe not this interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the charges against former President Trump have been thrown out on a technicality that the special counsel wasn't appointed by the right person. So they're not looking at the issue of whether or not he should or should not have had top secret papers and took those illicitly. They looked at a technicality of who appointed. And hey, a lot of cases are won and lost on technicalities. So I think that might be the reason why we haven't seen a whole lot more this year already, is that there were issues pending that needed to work their way through before things got bigger. But we've had the Republican National Congress now, so it's official. You know, he's the candidate. He's chosen as vice president candidate. And so it's official. So between now and November, you can start seeing a lot of things pick up. There are still things pending, of course, but we'll start seeing a lot more action pick up on the election front now. But also, let's see what else has happened. A couple of other things that have hit the news here in the U.S.
You had another nice story in the U.S. about dick pics.
Yes, and thank you for being the one saying it. So there is an app, and thank you to Carrie Linning for posting this on LinkedIn, so I totally missed it. But this was an app that promised to use AI to weed out daters with STIs. So it was, is my penis sick? And so, yeah, in the other word, I'm sorry, y'all, I was raised Southern. I just can't. But it's the title is that the FTC is so committed to protecting consumers that it is even willing to wade through pages of penis pictures to protect Americans from AI scammers. That was my way of saying the headline, not verbatim. So the app was He Health, just like he is and she, He Health's AI-powered Calmera app claimed that its innovative AI technology offered rapid, confidential, and scientifically validated sexual health screening, giving you peace of mind before diving into intimate encounters. But it's now been shut down after an inquiry by the FTC.
Yeah, this is insane. This is really some money boy thinking he can make money off AI and combining probably one of his favorite pastimes, sending dick pics and making that into a money generating business. I don't know. But basically this app claims you can send a picture, AI will analyze it, and based on the picture determine whether or not there is an STI.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I mean,
like sending a picture of your sick plant and saying, hey, fix my plant. That one was approved.
I mean, those apps seem to work, so why doesn't this work? I mean, yeah. In any case, from what I've read about the topic of STIs, I don't believe that this is foolproof because not every STI is visible. So, yeah, this is an interesting one. But yeah, it's also good that the FTC here enforces and made the company shut down the app, despite the fact that there were all kinds of academic studies apparently underlying their claims. But yeah, I don't believe that.
Yeah, they weren't able to prove that they could make health benefit claims without reliable scientific evidence. It did say that
Exactly.
there were a small number of Calmara users and sales in the U.S., but the FTC said it reserves the right to take such further action as public interest requires. But the company agreed to shut down both their apps by July 15th. So by the time y'all get this, they'll be shut down, and their website and links to the app appear to be offline. They agreed to delete all personal data obtained from customers through the apps or payment vendors and request those vendors to delete any data on their customers. But however, there are stories that these pictures are the videos that Calmara received remain on YouTube. I'm not going to look for them, but kudos to those at the FTC that's willing to do so.
No comment. What else did happen on your side?
Well, there was also an interesting story. Another one of my friends posted. Now, Alan Ayers was a colleague back from my days at Concentra, and he posted a story that I meant to mention last week, and I forgot. But this was a doctor, Dr. Roxy, who had a large TikTok following. She is a plastic surgeon. She would live stream, dance, lip sync, all of these things, but she was stripped of her license by the State Medical Board of Ohio. And part of that was on her social media presence because she did live stream surgeries. Now, it didn't say whether or not the patients agreed to have these surgeries live stream. You would think that any idiot, much less a doctor, would know to get consent before you live stream a surgery. However, the medical board had expressed concern previously over her social media activity. And Dr. Roxy testified that she sometimes does silly phone videos simply to make people smile in a world that is negative and difficult to navigate. And it was a very powerful marketing tool for her facility, raised awareness of what occurs during surgery. I don't know if that's true or not, and reduced the fear of the unknown for her prospective patient. Now, other people have said, now here's the thing. She didn't lose her license because of TikTok, but the judge did say that based on her failure to meet standard of care, which she may have sacrificed in light of her social media activity, may have contributed to the loss of her license. But also apparently she wasn't really good on the business side of things. Maybe she was brilliant on the marketing side of things, but she wasn't good on the business side of things, which if you're a doctor, you do have an imperative to run your practice legally and in compliance with different laws and regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of whether it's a medical law or regulation you're violating, you're supposed to follow the law. And so there were different things. And I think this came down to taxes and health facility licensing and things like that. So it's really interesting to see this story come out. I was taken by surprise. I guess I shouldn't have, but maybe there is a lot more attention paid to social media than there is to actually being a good doctor. I'm not saying for her in specific, I'm saying in general. Maybe that's kind of a trend we're seeing when they're viral doctors out there and what they do. Maybe they need to make sure they're spending just as much time making sure their practice is compliant and they're not violating patient rights.
Well, that seems sensible, especially as a doctor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So that's another one. What else on your end?
What else do I have on my end? So there is the SHIELD Act, targeting online exploitation of explicit images, passed the Senate. So goal is to hold individuals accountable for non-consensual sharing of individual images. So whether you call it revenge porn, non-consensual pornography terminology, the federal government is looking at a federal law against this. We have a lot of state laws. If it's not all states, it's nearly all states now have a non-consensual pornography law. However, don't forget, some of the privacy laws we're looking at seem to have provisions in sensitive data addressing nude or underclothes clad images being sensitive data. That might be trying to also impact laws like non-consensual pornography. but there doesn't also seem to be exceptions for things like art and advertising and things like that. So at some point, I think we're going to come down to seeing some conflicts in law on this level. Not that those are completely unexpected, but I think we will. So we have that. AT&T, if y'all hadn't heard, had a huge security breach. I think it goes back to 2022. I was with AT&T way back in the early 2000s, so I don't have to worry about it unless they simply never got rid of my data, but it's over 5 months in 2022. They're saying it didn't include sensitive information like social security numbers or call content. But they did say that they're basically getting all of the text messages and phone call records. And as you know, with text messages, it could be the content. I don't know if they have explicitly proven that it did not get the content, but we'll see. We'll see what comes out of that. There's probably more to come for that one. There was also a settlement with the FTC in Los Angeles with NGL Labs, banning them from offering their anonymous messaging app to people under 18, and they had a $5 million penalty for deceptive practices. They also claimed AI content moderation, sent fake messages, and failed to obtain consent for recurring charges. And that's something we're starting to see now with a lot of applications, especially in the gaming world, targeting children, are those automatic recurring charges that children aren't authorized to do. And their parents may not actually have real notice that the kids are doing this because the parental permissions under COPPAs we've talked about before, pretty antiquated. They don't necessarily do anything towards proving the parent is the one giving the permission. So that now is coming into finance charges for recurring charges or for point of sale charges. So we're starting to see a lot more FTC around that as well. Let's see, what else do we have in the U.S.? There was an FCC settlement. Now, this one, we talked about FCC kind of downgraded their activity. So I love seeing a little bit more activity out of the FCC. There was a $34.6 million settlement with Caption Call for unlawfully retaining call content and submitting inaccurate information to the TRS fund administrator. So there was a $4 million investment in privacy as part of the settlement for TRS users, and a $5 million civil penalty and a $12 million reimbursement to the TRS fund. They agreed to implement a comprehensive compliance program, including data inventory, data retention schedules, and privacy enhancing technologies. So I actually loved seeing that as well. So we have a little bit going on here, but it's kind of like I think the nation is in a period of bated breath, waiting to see what else happens. Delaware, of course, is rolling out some business assistance for businesses in preparation for the Delaware Act, which I love seeing, and I hope some of these other states do as well. But what have you got going on? I mean, what else are we seeing around the world? We got some activity in France. We got some in Turkey. We got some in, was it Australia, I think I saw, or Germany as well?
Just name some random countries.
Random countries.
And there will be some data protection activity for sure.
Right? I haven't heard anything out of South America yet.
Well, in Brazil currently, the CPDP Latin America is ongoing.
Right. That's happening right now.
That's happening in Brazil. In Turkey, the Turkish Data Protection Authority, the KVKK, you must love that name.
KVKK, yeah, I'm all about that one.
The KVKK. They adopted finally the long-awaited guidelines on international data transfers. No very big surprises, so there can be standard contractual clauses, there can be adequacy decisions, there are none approved yet. There can be ad hoc clauses and also some binding corporate rules like system. So those have now all been published and will enter into force under the updated Turkish data protection law. So that's all coming.
That's good.
In the UK, on July 17th, King Charles III held the so-called King's Speech, outlining the government program for the new Labour government and all the bills to be expected in the forthcoming parliamentary year, or at least all the main ones. And they include also new data legislation. Bill will be called the Digital Information and Smart Data Bill, allowing, first of all, people to use digital IDs, for example, to buy age-restricted products and for pre-employment checks and things like that. But that will also include some of the updates that first were foreseen in the data protection bill that didn't make it before the elections in the UK a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
In any case, where it comes to the powers and the restructuring of the Information Commissioner's Office. So that will likely be included, new, stronger powers, a more modern structure. And there was also the expectation that there would be some specific AI bill announced that has not been done. So that may still come later this year, but it was not announced as a key priority in the list of 80 bills that were announced today.
Right.
However, there will be also a new cybersecurity law that is forthcoming. It's called the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill to protect critical infrastructure. I think that will be similar.
A lot like DORA.
Well, I think it's similar to also the EU's Network Information Security Directive version 2, which is due to go into application at the end of this year. So, and there are more laws where the UK seems to align still with some of the things that Europe is doing. For example, they're alluding to more consumer protection laws along the lines of the Digital Services Act.
Right.
They don't make that explicit reference, of course, because they cannot implement the EU Digital Services Act right now for obvious reasons. But something like that seems to be included in the King's Speech as well. Then the European Data Protection Board, they held their final meeting before the summer. Online meeting on the 16th of July. No groundbreaking stuff. They never do that during the online meetings if they can avoid it.
But we like groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah, but then they need to meet face to face because then you can also do a press conference and things like that.
Right.
Still, they clarified some of the processes for the data privacy framework, both for individuals and for businesses. It seems that there are some certification mechanisms that are on the horizon. In any case, one for Europrice, for the European Data Protection Seal, that should be forthcoming. And they released a statement on the DPA's role in the AI Act framework. And surprise, the DPAs consider that they would be the best place to be the regulator under the AI Act. So they call on the member states to make sure that they are actually also appointed as the regulator under the AI Act. So we'll see what that brings.
Yeah.
So all in all, the EDPB has had a pretty busy year, I would say.
A nice year, though.
A nice year, absolutely. Here in the Netherlands, a chemist, Kruidvat, it's similar to CVC in the US, or CVS in the US. They have received a fine of 600,000 euros for tracking cookies.
Ooh.
And the facts actually go back to 2020 and 2021 already. The Dutch EPA writes somewhere in their decision that they had resource issues and therefore the investigation was on hold for over 18 months.
Surprise, surprise.
Which seems to be a bit strange in an ongoing investigation. Even stranger is that the press release focuses on the collection of sensitive personal data, because with a chemist, you can imagine there is a lot of more health-related information or things related to sexuality when you want to buy a pregnancy test or things like that. And yet, if you look at the finding report, one of the main conclusions is that no sensitive personal data was processed. So why the press release talks about sensitive data and the report says there were none, that's beyond me. And also the whole legal argumentation is hard to follow. I understand why they came to the conclusion, yes, we should impose a fine, for example, because there were all kinds of pre-ticked boxes for marketing cookies.
Right.
But there is no clear distinction on marketing cookies on the one hand and statistical cookies on the other. There is also the whole fine and the whole report is based on the GDPR and not on e-privacy, whereas cookies primarily are dealt with in e-privacy. So there are still some questions related to this report. It has been appealed, so it will go to court.
No surprise there either.
No surprise there either, no. So it will go to court and we'll see what that brings. But I would be interested to see more detail also from the report because the finding report that the DPA releases is only a summary. And it
Okay.
seems that a lot of the legal reasoning is actually not in the public report.
Which is something we hate. We would like to see the actual
Everything.
reason. Yeah. I mean, transparency, people, transparency. How can businesses learn to do better if they can't actually see what the regulators are looking at to say whether they're doing good or bad, right?
Exactly. So yes, I think those were the highlights. And then in France, there is a big debate. You know, the Olympic Games are kicking off in less than
Yes.
10 days. And apparently there will be all kinds of AI-powered security cameras across the city.
I also hear they have cardboard beds trying to discourage indiscriminate sexual activity among the competitors.
Well, that has already been debunked because those beds were already in Tokyo in 2021. But I mean, apparently they are just very sturdy beds, but they are more environmentally friendly somehow.
I would think that they would be more for the environment because of the number of beds they have to have that would probably just be thrown away when they're done.
Possibly. I mean, I'm not completely sure.
I don't know. There's a mystery to be solved.
But if your concern is about things untoward happening during the Olympic Games, then you must have missed the report that there will be some 200,000 condoms also distributed for everybody who wants to use them in the Olympic Village. So
I was going to say, who cares if they have cardboard beds? They're still sitting on a floor. I mean,
yes.
Floor, walls, doors, windows. I mean, where there's a wheel, there's a way.
So I guess this episode is becoming rather X-rated
The
by
sex
now.
show. Yeah, well, in honor of Dr. Roof's passing, we had to try to carry the torch a little bit.
That's true. And then if you mentioned that, I cannot unsee the post that I saw earlier this week on X from the former director in the European Commission responsible for data protection, Paul Nemitz, talking about how he learned from Dr. Ruth.
Yeah.
We'll include the link. On that happy note, we'll wrap up another episode of Serious Privacy. If you like the episode, join the conversation on LinkedIn. You'll find us under Serious Privacy. You will find Kay on social media as Heart of Privacy and myself as Europol V. Until next week, goodbye.
Bye, y'all.
That was Serious Privacy.
If you're a data protection or privacy professional, you already know the pressure. Non-stop regulatory change, AI oversight, internal demands, and the expectation to somehow stay ahead of it all. And the old patchwork of tools just isn't cutting it anymore.
No. That's why TrustArc created a modern privacy management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. The TrustArc platform brings your workflows, evidence, research, tasks, and applications all together in one unified and intelligent workspace so you don't waste time digging, clicking, or context switching.
With Ask Arc, your privacy assistant, you can ask plain language questions about laws, jurisdictions, or even your own program data, and get credible, cited answers based on NIMBY research and more than 1,000 global laws. It's explainable, transparent, and purpose-built for data protection and privacy.
So if you need to add a vendor, create a cookie banner, or start an assessment, quick actions take formally complex tasks, turn them into bite-sized guided workflows to save you time.
It's a platform that thinks like you, works like you, and helps you move faster with confidence, whether you're a seasoned DPO or you're just getting started.
See how modern privacy gets done. Explore Arc at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.